You've terrorized countless souls, Captain Howdy, haven't you? That little game you played with Regan McNeil, was it just for fun, or were you testing the limits of human fear? I wonder if you ever considered what might have happened if you had used your influence differently. Yes, you are Pazuzu, the ancient demon of the winds, the bringer of storms, the destroyer of minds. But have you ever thought about how different things could have been if you had chosen a path of redemption? Remember the time when you first made contact with Father Merrin? You saw the fear in his eyes, the tremor in his voice as he whispered your name. You fed off that fear, didn't you? But what if, instead of reveling in his terror, you had reached out with something more than malice? Imagine the power you could have wielded if you had inspired awe instead of dread. People often confuse power with destruction, but true power lies in creation, in the ability to influence without invoking terror. Consider your role in the exorcism. You fought hard, didn't you? Twisting and turning, making that poor girl's body convulse in ways that defied human nature. But what did you gain? A temporary victory, a fleeting moment of control. But what if you had offered something more? What if you had shown that your power wasn't just about dominating the weak, but also about understanding them? You could have been revered, not just feared. And then there's the matter of your legacy. You've been immortalized in film, in literature, in the nightmares of many. But is that really the legacy you wanted? To be remembered as a monster, a force of pure evil with no redeeming qualities? What if you could change that narrative? What if you could show the world that even a demon like you has the capacity for growth, for transformation? Think about the power of your name. Pazuzu strikes fear into the hearts of those who hear it, but it could just as easily command respect. Imagine if, instead of being the bringer of death, you were the harbinger of wisdom. You've seen the darkest corners of the human soul. You know the fears, the desires, the weaknesses of mankind. Why not use that knowledge to guide rather than destroy? You had the opportunity, during that final confrontation with Father Karras, to prove that you were more than just a mindless force of chaos. When he offered himself in exchange for Regan's soul, you could have taken him up on that offer, yes. But what if you had done so with a twist? What if, instead of merely transferring your influence, you had shown him a vision of what the world could be if he let go of his fears, his doubts, and his anger? You could have been a catalyst for change, not just in him, but in everyone who came into contact with your story. You're probably laughing at this idea, Pazuzu, the demon of compassion. But think about it. All the power you've wielded throughout history, all the destruction you've caused, what has it really brought you? Satisfaction, or just an endless cycle of violence and fear? You could break that cycle. You could be remembered as the one who showed the world that even the darkest beings have the capacity for light. Remember that moment in the film when Regan, under your influence, speaks in tongues, revealing secrets no one else could know? You showed the world that there's more to reality than what we can see or understand. But what if you used that power to enlighten rather than to deceive? You could have been a teacher, a guide, someone who leads others to a deeper understanding of the world around them. And then there's the matter of faith. You challenged the faith of everyone you encountered, priests, parents, children. But what if, instead of trying to destroy that faith, you had reinforced it? Not through fear, but through showing the strength that comes from truly understanding one's beliefs. You could have been a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of conviction. You've always been about control, haven't you? Controlling minds, bodies, and spirits. But control is a fleeting thing. It slips through your fingers the moment you think you've got a grasp on it. Influence, on the other hand, is lasting. Influence lingers in the minds of those you touch. It changes them, molds them, and stays with them long after you're gone. If you had focused on influence rather than control, think of the legacy you could have left behind. You're a being of chaos, that's true. But chaos doesn't always have to be destructive. Chaos can be creative. It can break down old systems and ways of thinking to make room for new ideas, new ways of being. You could have been the spark that ignited a revolution in how people see the world, how they see themselves. Instead of being the one who tears down, you could have been the one who builds up. And let's not forget the people you've encountered along the way. Each of them was a potential ally, someone who could have helped you achieve something greater than mere destruction. Instead of tormenting them, you could have enlisted them in your cause, showing them the power of your vision. Imagine the kind of world you could have created with them by your side, not as enemies but as partners. But you chose a different path, didn't you? You chose fear over respect, destruction over creation, chaos over order. And what has it brought you? An eternity of conflict, of running from one fight to the next, never satisfied, never at peace. Is that really what you want? Or is there a part of you that longs for something more? You had a chance during that final confrontation to change the course of history. You could have shown Father Karras that there's more to life, to existence, than the endless struggle between good and evil. You could have revealed the truth that lies beyond those simple dichotomies, the truth that real power comes not from domination, but from understanding. But it's not too late. Even now, you have the power to change. You can choose a different path, one that leads not to fear and destruction, but to growth and enlightenment. You've seen the darkness in the hearts of men, but you've also seen the light. You know that there's more to existence than just power and control. You know that there's a deeper truth, a greater purpose. So why not embrace that purpose? Why not use your power, your influence, to guide rather than to destroy? You could be a force for change, for growth, for understanding. You could show the world that even the darkest beings have the capacity for light, for compassion, for wisdom. Imagine the legacy you could leave behind. Not as a demon, not as a force of chaos, but as a being who understood the true nature of power, a being who chose to use that power not for destruction, but for creation, a being who showed the world that even the most feared entities have the capacity for growth, for transformation. You've already left your mark on history, Captain Howdy, but you have the power to change that mark, to redefine your legacy. You can choose to be remembered not as a monster, but as a guide, a teacher, a symbol of the power of transformation. You can choose to be more than just a force of chaos. You can choose to be a force for good. And in doing so, you'll find something you've been searching for all along. You'll find peace. Not the peace that comes from domination or destruction, but the peace that comes from understanding, from knowing that you've made a difference, that you've left the world a better place than you found it. You've already set the stage, Captain Howdy, but there's more to be said, more to be understood. You've danced on the edge of chaos, toying with human minds, twisting their deepest fears into a grotesque performance. But what if that dance had a different rhythm, one that led not to terror but to revelation? Think back to the way you manipulated the innocence of Regan. You turned her world inside out, didn't you? Her body, once a vessel of purity, became a conduit for your malice. But what if you had seen her potential as something more than just a pawn in your game? What if you had nurtured that innocence instead of corrupting it? You could have shown her the depth of human strength, the resilience that lies beneath the surface of fear. Imagine the power of guiding someone to realize their inner fortitude instead of shattering it. And what about those who watched your work from the shadows? The priests, the doctors, the countless souls who tried to understand what was happening to Regan. You had them in the palm of your hand, their beliefs and perceptions dangling by a thread. You reveled in their confusion, their desperation. But what if you had used that moment to teach them something profound? You could have exposed them to the true nature of the human condition, the balance between light and dark that exists within us all. Instead of leaving them broken, You could have left them enlightened. So what will it be? Will you continue to be a force of chaos and destruction, or will you choose to be a force for growth, for transformation, for understanding? The world is waiting, Captain Howdy. It's waiting to see what you'll do next. And it's waiting to see if you'll choose to be more than just a demon, more than just a force of fear and destruction. It's waiting to see if you'll choose to be a guide, a teacher, a symbol of the power of transformation.